Imagine for a moment that your financial future doesn't just depend on how much you know or how smart you are, but on how you behave. That's the essence of what Morgan Housel explores in The Psychology of Money. In this video, we'll unpack the life-changing lessons from this brilliant book. From how people like Warren Buffett and Ronald Read built their fortunes, to the dangerous traps that highly educated, successful people often fall into, these timeless lessons will change the way you think about money, wealth, and success. And at the end of this video, I'm going to share a concept that's even more powerful than compounding, something that will forever change your perspective on financial success. One of the most compelling ideas in the psychology of money is that people often think about money as a formula, a set of rules that if followed correctly, will lead to success. But money is much more than that. It's emotional, it's personal, and it's largely influenced by our behaviors. Morgan Housel opens the book with a story that shows just how little intelligence has to do with financial success. A tech executive who made a fortune in the early 2000s ended up going broke not because he didn't understand the stock market or business, but because he couldn't control his ego or his need to flaunt his wealth. Compare that to Ronald Read, a janitor who quietly amassed a fortune of over $8 million by living frugally and investing in blue-chip stocks over decades. The lesson here is profound. Getting rich isn't about how much you know, it's about how you behave with the money you have. One of the key lessons from the book is the power of compounding. This isn't a new concept, but it's one that most people, even seasoned investors, fail to truly appreciate. Warren Buffett didn't become the richest investor by picking the best stocks. He became wealthy by staying in the game for over 70 years. In fact, more than 99% of his wealth was accumulated after his 50th birthday. The power of compounding is best understood over time. It's not about quick wins or massive short-term gains. It's about making consistent, steady returns and letting those returns compound over decades. But the real magic happens when you combine compounding with patience. In a world that celebrates overnight success, the real winners are those who play the long game, the ones who understand that time is the most valuable asset in investing. But building wealth is just one part of the equation. Keeping it is the real challenge. Morgan Housel tells the story of Jesse Livermore, a brilliant trader who made millions during the stock market crash of 1929. He was one of the richest men in the world at the time, but his fortune didn't last. Over time, Livermore lost everything and tragically took his own life. The lesson here is crucial. Staying wealthy is about survival. It's about avoiding catastrophic losses and maintaining a level of financial paranoia. Livermore's downfall shows that no matter how smart or successful you are, greed and overconfidence can ruin you. Wealth preservation requires humility and the understanding that markets are unpredictable and risks are always lurking. Another critical point in the book is the role of luck and risk in financial outcomes. Bill Gates is a genius, but he also attended one of the only high schools in the world with a computer in the 1960s. His success is undoubtedly due to his intelligence and hard work, but he also had a rare opportunity that most people didn't. On the other hand, his childhood friend Kent Evans, who was equally talented, died in a mountaineering accident before he could realize his potential. The takeaway? Success and failure in finance aren't always a reflection of effort or intelligence. They're often shaped by factors beyond our control like timing, luck, and risk. Understanding this allows us to approach investing with a sense of humility and caution. It reminds us to build portfolios with room for error, to diversify, and to never assume that success is guaranteed, no matter how smart we are or how much effort we put in. Then there's the concept of enough. Rajat Gupta, a former McKinsey CEO worth over $100 million, was a perfect example of someone who didn't know when to stop. He wanted to be a billionaire, and that led him to insider trading, which destroyed his career and reputation. Similarly, Bernie Madoff had a legitimate, successful business that made him millions, yet he turned to a Ponzi scheme to make even more. These stories highlight the dangerous game of moving the goalposts, of always wanting more. It's human nature to push for more, but at what cost? The most important financial skill isn't just about making more money, it's about knowing when to stop. Learning to appreciate what you have and not risk it for what you don't is one of the most powerful lessons from the book. As Housel puts it, if you risk what you need for something you don't need, it's just plain foolish. Another fascinating lesson from the book is that people's financial decisions are deeply personal and often irrational. We all have different life experiences that shape how we think about money. Someone who grew up during the Great Depression will approach risk and investing differently than someone who grew up in a booming economy. These personal experiences create biases that influence how we save, invest, and spend. This is why two equally smart people can have completely different views on the stock market, debt, or financial risk. There's no single right answer, and that's why it's important to develop a financial plan that fits your personal situation, rather than copying someone else's strategy. The book also highlights the difference between rational and reasonable financial decisions. A rational decision is one that makes sense on paper, while a reasonable decision is one that takes into account your emotions, your goals, and your comfort level. For example, putting all your money in the stock market might be the rational thing to do if you're young and want to maximize returns. But if it makes you lose sleep at night, or causes you to panic sell during a downturn, it might not be the reasonable thing to do. The lesson here is that personal finance is more personal than finance. It's about finding a strategy that works for you, even if it's not the one that delivers the highest returns on paper. As we approach the final lesson from the psychology of money, let's revisit one of the most overlooked concepts in personal finance: time. Time is the most valuable currency we have, yet it's the one we most often ignore. Having control over your time, the freedom to do what you want, when you want, is one of the ultimate forms of wealth. It's not just about money, it's about living life on your terms. Housel points out that people who have control over their time tend to be happier than those who don't, regardless of how much money they have. And this is where the real power of financial independence lies. It's not just about accumulating wealth, it's about using that wealth to gain freedom and flexibility in your life. And here's the final thought that ties everything together. The most powerful financial principle isn't just compounding, it's the power of staying in the game. The people who succeed financially aren't always the ones who take the biggest risks or make the most money in a single deal. They're the ones who avoid catastrophic mistakes, who allow their wealth to compound over time, and who stay in the game long enough to see their efforts bear fruit. In the end, building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. It's about patience, persistence, and the understanding that slow and steady wins the race.